Pushing the wrong button. Story of my life. Okay, that's me. I was 54 years old in 1992, and I became a PTC value-added reseller in Arizona. Previously, 35 years, yes, I'm an electrical engineer dealing in mechanical shit. Radio communications, core memory systems, how about that for dating you? And semiconductor manufacture, memory design and manufacture. So 1992, I fought in the CAD wars of the 1990s, became a solid edge VAR in 1998, and joined the solids modeling revolution of the 2000s. Yes, I'm older than dirt, 84 years old. In 2012, there were 4 issues that really bothered me. And I'll go through them. The first issue was during the 2000s, mainstream solid modeling became the industry standard, but it wasn't because of its functionality. It was because these 3D images became indispensable for a company. They enabled everyone in the company to see what was going on. In the old days, we used to build a prototype, and that's when manufacturing could tell. So everyone got involved at the beginning. So 3D images were the thing. And so, but solids modeling became the industry standard, but there were significant gaps and problems with its functionality. And another thing, for every new software version, monetizable enhancements have priority. That's a given. And then users, but they're mostly prismatic modelers, vote on the remaining enhancements. Here's the problem. Advanced functionality isn't easy to monetize. So that didn't happen too easy. And prismatic modelers, they are just, they're up to their neck in problems, and they usually vote for Band-Aids, okay? Now, interactive advanced training classes were rare. And realistically, that's the only way to learn advanced modeling. It's the only way. And, but they're hard to monetize. So you don't see a lot of them out there. And therefore, the only path becoming a power user is often just trial and error. And most of the power users that you see nowadays, they learned it on their own. And here's another problem that's plaguing us. Unfortunately, when Prismatic Modeler, that's someone that's learned how to make models with the 3 default data planes. When he attempts a complex model, he uses the same strategy. And it's not long before he comes to an impasse, he has domino errors and stuff like that. But deadlines must be made. So the shape is captured using hack and whack techniques. I think everyone here knows what that is. And then, but this process is so typical that most companies don't check their models for release to manufacturing. So there's an epidemic of throwaway models in the worldwide inventory. So in 2012, I decided to rain on the solid modeling parade. And I had 20 years of interacting with power users, mentoring, and the 4 issues were a recurring theme. So I created a presentation called Resilient Modeling Strategy to highlight these issues, but more importantly, to offer solutions. And I selected Solid Edge University as my soapbox and proceeded to organize my thoughts. That all came from the the about section on my website. Just a minute. And there's 2 more pages to it. The second page tells how I failed miserably at communicating. And then the third is that after COVID, well, during COVID, I worked on this. I had pretty well in 2019, I had pretty well given up that no one cared about resilient modeling. I went on and worked on it, and I worked on it because I didn't have anything else to do. All of a sudden, this thing kind of morphed into something that I hadn't planned in the beginning. So I've got a website, resilientmodeling.com. Now, damn it, resilientmodeling.net, or more, there's a link, learnrms.com, easier to remember. So anyway, what I'd like to do right now is, and by the way, what I'm going to do, I'm sharing with you today is just some general thoughts on solid modeling, my experiences and stuff like that. And this is how I see solid modeling expertise. Of course, you got students, but when they're out of class or through making their simple little blocks with a hole in it, they become casual users. And then through repetition, they become prismatic modelers. And at some point, that population suddenly decides they want to be power users. So how do they do it? And that is the learning paradox, because it isn't easy. But quite a few made it. We've got quite a few in this room right here. 2 of them right back there in that corner. And they become power users and then go on to RMS Mentors. But I'm going to go into more detail here. Casual user. He understands a single CAD interface. He can make trivial prismatic parts. And he's considered a casual user. But all it takes is repetition for him to be a productive prismatic model. But without repetition, casual users know enough to be dangerous. And that usually applies to managers. Okay? Think of this scenario. In the 90s or the 2000s, this guy was a manager. So he never got involved in making solid models, but suddenly everyone underneath him is making solid models and he doesn't know how to do it. And that bothers him. So he goes to class, an elementary class, and learns solid modeling. A prismatic modeler creates solid models using the 3 primary reference planes. This strategy is great for parts that are going to be machined or turned. And since his models are intuitive, casual mentoring is available from almost any solid modeler. Casual mentoring, that's an interesting concept, but that's how you learn. After you originally did solid modeling, it was casual mentoring. You talk to someone, if you're in a design team or something like that, or friends, and you've really got a problem if you're in a company and you're the only one that does solids modeling, because who do you learn from? Okay, but that casual mentoring is the usual way people learn. But there's some problems here. Prismatic modeler, sooner or later, someone's going to ask him to make a model of something that he isn't ready for. Okay? And he makes a model, they're unique and cryptic because he used his basic 3 datum plane strategy. And he's the only one that can understand it. And because no one else can understand it, casual mentoring isn't available anymore. And he's got unstable parent-child relationships everywhere. Editing is almost impossible, so he's continually starting over. and the schedules must be kept. So at some point, he just stops and starts hacking and whacking, doing whatever possible to capture the shape. Now, in the expertise phase, pragmatic modelers, they're prismatic modelers that are committed to learning how to make complex models. And their idea is to fast track. Seriously, the only way to do this is to learn the RMS prerequisites. These are CAD neutral, and they're best taught with interactive instructor-led classes or one-on-one mentoring. And the reason is because there's so many questions that you've got. So many questions, and most of this is going to involve unlearning. Unlearning. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's what's going to happen. And so that's why you need an instructor-led class. A great example is Joseph Wright. And in fact, Go Engineer is, I've been told they're going to be offering resilient modeling classes, instructor-led. And maybe some other people will do it. Right, Mandy? But this isn't enough. Seriously, once you learn the principles, and they all revolve around the skeleton that you make before the first solid feature. But once you learn the principles, you need to have someone that can mentor you, not full-time, but mentor you on a project, on a real life project that can do sanity checks in what you're doing, help you set up the skeleton and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people in this room that know a lot, that are doing this a lot. They could be mentors and make money, moonlighting. And, but what they don't want to do is to have to do this first. So if this is done first, oh boy, okay. Don't mind me if I start talking fast. Now, power users are the ones that have learned to manage the parent-child relationships. And this is key. By starting complex models with a framework, or called a skeleton of reference features. You put reference features in first because they are, why reference features? Because they can be turned on and off. Their visibility can be toggled, but their functionality is still there. And then as you make solid features, you're going to refer back to those and make your links to those reference features in the skeleton. The point is, what we want is parent-child relationships that are one to many. So we keep going back to the same circle rather than daisy chain circle from this one to that one. Anytime you start daisy chaining parent-child relationships, you're asking for domino errors. I assume everyone here knows what a domino error is, but I'll tell you, anyway, that's when you make an edit and then you're done, and all of a sudden, 10 features after that feature fail. That's a domino error. Most certain it's because of parent-child relationships. So for the power users, there weren't mentors classes or best practices manuals, so they just learned from making excellent mistakes. And their reward, management gave them the tough models to create, but still expected them to keep pace with the hack and whack coworkers. Phase 5 is RMS Mentors. If you talk to enough power users about their design philosophy, a pattern emerges. And surprisingly, it's very similar. You have a skeleton, You have a tree that you plant, you rename it, and you have a specific order. And then you use master models. Now, master models is a pretty generic name, but basically what it means is that you've got a model made of just maybe 5 or 6 highly interactive parts. And you're going to design it in the context of an assembly. Like Pro-E likes to do it, and they even teach it and sell it, but they do it in an assembly. What resilient modeling wants to do is, rather than in an assembly, do it in a multi-body part. A single, solid, multi-body part. No links, stuff like that. So RMS mentors are power users who monetize their solid modeling skills by providing after-hours mentoring services. And that's what resilient modeling is all about. That's why it's there. I don't expect anyone to go and read through the whole thing. It'd be like reading a dictionary, okay? It's built up of individual CAD talks on a subject. But I've tried to capture as much of the tribal knowledge as possible there. And once you take a good look at it, you can see how it can simplify this mentoring process. And if you go to one of the instructor-led classes, you'll learn how to do it. Once you do that, hey, how would you like to spend an evening, 3 hours, and get $200 for it? Clean, just telling people what you know. And then they want you to come back because it worked. And it worked. Next thing you know, you don't even have time to watch basketball or anything in the evening. Spending money. So this is a review. If we look at Prismatic Modelers, student, casual user, and then a Prismatic Modeler. The student's eager, the casual user is overconfident. And then the Prismatic Modeler, he's comfortable, okay? As long as he's making prismatic models. And you know what? If you're designing machines, you can probably fit there. Because a machine is just a huge collection of simple prismatic modelers, plus some complicated things, but you usually buy them like shock absorbers and conveyor belts, stuff like that. Advanced modeling, well, Pragmatic Modeler, he wants to make advanced models. The power user has made it. And the RMS mentor, he's making money. That's even better. Now, this next one, I call food for thought. It's a bunch of standalone slides on various aspects of solid modeling. My wife thought I should call it potpourri. I don't get that. And I didn't think anyone else would. So that's what it is. So in 1992, Pro Engineer changed everything. Yeah, this is a SolidWorks user group, but they were first. They had 5 principles. That's what they sold. Those are the 5 things. Everyone that sold Pro-E, that was drilled into you. Jack Napoli was my Pro-E guy that taught me all that stuff. But this is what PTC was different. It was parametric. It was feature-based. It had associativity with the drawings. Ability, it captured design intent. And it had assembly management, particularly the automatic bill of materials. In the 90s, I did some demos where at the end, or seminars, I got a standing ovation because I showed them so many crazy things that they never thought was possible. Solid models, 2022, companies allow throwaway models. Most released solid models are a revision nightmare. And feature rework is 80% of the design process. And no one cares. You believe that? 80% is rework. That's just designing a model. When you, from first feature to the last, 80% of the time you're doing rework. So let's look at it. Well, you're reworking the tree, managing the relationships, changing the feature sequence, new requirements. Someone says, hey, we got to do it this way. So you got to go out and do it different. Rework a feature, change the sketching plane, edit the profile, or change the extents. Big stairs, we've got failed features, and then we have the dreaded domino errors. And then what do we do when we get an impasse? Do we start over or add undo features? You know what an undo feature is? You did something wrong. So instead of moving back, you take this undo feature, usually a cut, and you just cut the damn thing out. And then you start over again. Imagine now you've inherited this model and trying to figure out what he did. Don't blame the software. Solids modeling software only provides the building blocks features. This is important. The designer is 100% responsible for a sequence and interaction of features. In other words, that feature tree, you own it. That's it. What if it's a good one, it's because of you. If it's a bad one, it's because of you. Can't blame anyone else. Notice I'm looking. I think I'll make it. Okay. So what we have is an epidemic of cryptic models, vague feature trees, puzzling design strategy, and models that are cryptic. And that's our mentor, our casual mentor. And the casual mentors disappear. That's why trial and error has been the default advanced learning process. Every model is robust until the first edit. What if the model can only be edited by its author? Or what if he forgets how he made the model, or he left the company? Successful edits often result in the dreaded domino edit. And this is the worst part. Remember, we're revising. The author must explain how a 1-hour job is turned into a major problem without telling his boss that the model was flawed when they released it. You can't do that. And then, what do model-based definition and additive manufacturing have in common? They both require editable complex models. Remastering isn't a viable option. If you're doing additive manufacturing, you make a model and now you've got to tweak something, got to edit it. You can't start the model all over again because you're going to be changing other things. My learnrms.com version 11 was released August 1st without any publicity whatsoever. It just suddenly the website turned from version 9 to 11. Okay. Version 10 was skipped in because of COVID. But this is just the last 2 weeks. 60% of my hits are coming outside the United States from countries where English isn't the first language. They're ghost followers and their numbers are increasing. I didn't expect this. This is just the last 2 weeks. I got to clean up my act. Seriously. And I'm playing catch up and I need feedback and a sanity check on the contents as soon as possible. I want people to find things wrong with it and I want to fix it. Because the way this is going, it's going to get out of hand. And so, perfect. So no one was expecting homework, I can imagine. Well, this is a simple model that demonstrates the power of RMS. Have anyone modeled this? Looks simple, right? Well, create the sanitary tee and then share it with me. There's my email. Share it with me. It's a challenge. And there are the specs. And this is a whole family of parts, but we're just going to make 1.5 inch one.
Share this slide.
I'm sorry?
Share the slide on our also. So
Well, okay.
people don't have to worry
Well, yeah, you can just go to this there, or if you go to learnrms.com, you go to menu, and then you'll see a pull down menu, and you go to administration, models, and you'll come to a page that you can download. And that's right. So these slides came from these CAD talks. So you can go to learnrms.com, CT 1.2, modeling expertise, food and thought, and the do-it-yourself sanitary tee. Now, since I have 2 minutes, I'll show you the website. I hope. There. That's the website. Go to About RMS. This is what you're going to see. This is the main menu. You can go down here to, oh, I lied. I said administration. It's actually overview. But there it is. DIY models. You click on that. Then you can see this. This is what I call a gallery. But if you click on it, each page has a gallery. If you click on it, you're going to see it like that. 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 There's the sanitary tee. Each one of these pages has a download. You can download it, you'll get that image directly. And like that. And let's see. If you go down here in the bottom, problems, there you see various CAD talks. This is one that is for convincing the management at your company that you should do this. I'll just play it a little. Ooh, sounds terrible. But what you need to look at is, see these little dots? Those are bookmarks. So you can jump back and forth. You can also go here. And this is the table of contents, so you can go there. And just a minute, I got to shut that guy off. All right. Uh-oh. Give me a minute. On a roll. Okay. So these are slides hard copies of each slide. Here again, you can download it. This is a website that's just giving away teaching materials. I want people to teach resilient modeling. So why? Well, I do have a hidden agenda. This is a subscription website. What you see in the front page, those are the public pages. You can subscribe, but it's going to cost you $10 a year. Now that's the price of a Big Mac in fries. But everything's downloadable, okay? And as you can teach from this, you can use this as your teaching materials. Only one requirement. You can only share with another member of resilient modeling. So that means if you want to teach, I'm going to get $10 from each one of your students. And that's the only way I make money here.